Hello, everyone. We are back with more sad details. Another fashion icon has died, Thierry Mugler, who gave us some of the best runway looks of the 90s. No one was more theatrical, glamorous, big, and of course, he had the iconic costume design for George Michael's Too Funky video, which is like cemented in my mind.
Yeah,
So, Ronald.
all fashion icons passing.
It really is the end of an era in a way. We did the Andre video, and Marie Dowd of the New York Times came out with a memorial. Anna Wintour wrote a more extended memorial on Vogue.com, and I was reading them. And it really is just such a marker of an era that's gone by. Big editorials, big fashion shows, just fantastical theater. And, everything's so streetwear driven, so influencer driven now. I don't know, if this kind of era will ever return, this sort of like magicalness of the runways bleeding over into pop culture.
Yes, but he's definitely an icon, and we're going to give you guys a quick overview of
Yeah,
his life.
exactly. All right, so let me share the screen. All right, Thierry Mugler, 1948 to 2022. All right. Mr. Mugler died yesterday, January 2022. Agency France Presse, which is like the AP here in America, said Mugler died of natural causes. He was known for his outrageous S&M aesthetic. He really brought gay culture into the mainstream. It was unheard of before his time. He's had several car and motorcycle accidents, and he also had a gym accident. And due to these incidents, he had to get several plastic surgeries on his face. So this is kind of what he looks like on the left here. But Ronald, you were saying that he was quoted more saying once he got it into
Yeah,
plastic surgery is more a pleasure thing.
he said he was quoted saying that it started off being more of on a reconstructive basis for his face, and then he just started liking it,
Mm.
which, some people, you feel plastic surgery, you can start liking it, start doing more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frankly, for goodness sakes, he was 73 and he really looked good. However you get it, however you look like that, whether it be plastic surgery or not, who cares? He looked good at the end of the day.
Right. And the body was incredible, which we'll get into some more detailed shots of that later. I mean, I'm not using the word addiction lightly, but he really was addicted to looking good, whether that was the gym or the surgeries. So, like you said, good for him. All right. I really liked this quote from Paul Cavaco. Paul Cavaco was the fashion director of Harper's Bazaar and Vogue in the 90s and the longtime creative director of Allure under Linda Wells, who you see to the right. And Mr. Paul Cavaco is in the middle. And this is what he said in the New York Times. The outwardness of the designers embracing being gay wasn't then a thing, said Paul Cavaco, who in Mugler's heyday was the fashion director of Harper's Bazaar. People knew, but you didn't really talk about it. It was considered not chic. And here he was sending drag queens like Lipsinka down the runway. So we're going to get into the photos a little bit later, but I think the boldness of him in a sort of post-AIDS era, and I wouldn't even say post-AIDS era, people were still really trying to figure AIDS out, but going into a post-AIDS era, and for him to have such boldness to show that gay subculture in a sort of popular medium that really was meant for women, I think is so courageous and bold, and people throw around icon and, disruptor and, all these sort of adjectives around, but he really, really was. He really did disrupt the system. And it was like his runway shows were like theater. They are referenced so highly today. Here is the infamous George Michael Too Funky video. So it was about 1994. George Michael did a series of two videos using supermodels. The Freedom video, which was a little bit more minimalist, and that had like Kate Moss and Cindy Crawford. And then Linda Evangelista actually did two videos for her. She was in the Freedom and the Too Funky videos. And Mugler did all the costumes for this. And you could see how fantastical this is. This is like Linda and her full on Italian Vogue moment with the blonde wig. It was, the first time that like fashion editorial was seen in this sort of television format with House of Style and the music videos and this crossover of high fashion Parisian runways or even New York runways crossing over into the mainstream. So I just adore that video. Tyra Banks is in it as well. So Really, really fantastic. And so, unfortunately, Mr. Mugler was pushed out of the brand in 2003. He ended up working for Cirque du Soleil with his good friend Joey Arias, who did the costumes for that. And that show was, once again, the theatrics of that show was so elevated because Mugler worked on it. But really, what he really sold and kept him alive was selling to his Angel fragrance to the Clarins brand in 1997. And still to this day is one of the best selling perfumes of all time. If you go to Sephora or the Macy's counter, you will see Angel today, and it is still a big seller, which I think is pretty incredible to have that big lifetime fragrance like Chanel No. 5. So he was never financially on the outs because, a lot of these, like poor Andre really died, with a cloudy financial situation, but Mr. Mugler was really taken care of to the end.
That's really good.
Really good. So a few years ago, Thierry Mugler reintroduced himself as Manfred. This is from a 2019 shoot in Interview magazine, but he had done this introduction a lot earlier in social media and kind of the various platforms, and became very much known for this bodybuilding aesthetic and really flaunting that. There were very many nudes of him on the internet, completely nude without the towel and all of that. And like you said, for he was 70, probably around 70 in that photo.
That does not look like 73, honey.
Right.
So of course.
So it was incredible. And like I said, call it addiction, call it what you want, but he was very committed to his fitness and very committed to health and, looking good. And so, I hope we can all
Okay, at 73. Yes,
get
ma'am.
there. So this is Nikki Taylor on the left in one of his 1990s shows. And then Beyonce actually got a hold of this runway piece for her whole Sasha Fierce period. And this is when Mugler really was introduced to a new generation, a millennial audience, a Gen Z audience who may have not been familiar with him. And as you can see, all of, the rap videos, today, Doja Cat, Lotto, Cardi B, who we'll see later, they're all influenced by this. This is all their stylists are referencing this kind of high glamour, high octane aesthetic. Who else do you kind of see doing this today? You're more up with what the kids are doing than I am.
Well, I mean, just in general, fashion's gonna make fashion goes around and just comes back around. So, I mean, everything's influencing everything, and everything from the past is influencing everyone now. That's just how it goes.
That is definitely true. And so here is Cardi B in a pristine runway piece of Mr. Mugler's from the 1990s. So, I mean, it just looks so good. So, and in this sort of Instagram, small screen way, these are the outfits that really, really pop, really get the likes, the hits, the impressions, etc. But I love that Mr. Mugler is getting his due because it's just a genius look.
It is. It's art. Truly was an artist.
It really was. Little, Mugler retrospective of everything that went on with him. So he did have some museum time.
21, he had an exhibition in Paris. The legendary robotic suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe we'll give them a little slideshow at the end here, just with the various looks that he populated. So, well, I hope that Andre and Mr. Mugler are kikiing together on the other side. Good Judies.
Yes, that's true. I mean, that's one way to look at it. At least now they are together. So that's when Andre's with him. So that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
I was gonna leave his mark. And yes. Anyway, bye you guys. And everyone subscribe down below.
All right, subscribe. Love to you, Mugler and Andre.